Sonya Barlow at Big Data London, and I am the founder of Like-Minded Females. We are changing the narrative of inclusion by creating communities, talking to corporates about how they can diversify their workforce, and making sure that we provide online digital academy for confidence building for the common person. And today I'll be joined by Natasha and Sara to talk about diversity in the data industry, why it's important, what we can do to enhance diversity, and more importantly, why we should be using technology to build communities and therefore our confidence in this industry. So, Natasha.
Hi.
Hi. Please can you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of what you do, where you're from, and why you're here today?
Okay, great. So my name is Natasha Lauer. I lead marketing at Collibra in the EMEA region. We're the data intelligence company. I live in Amsterdam, moved there about 12 years ago for work and have settled, called myself a Dutchie, and that's me in a nutshell.
It's amazing. Yeah. And Sara, please can you introduce yourself too?
So I'm Sara Fernandez. I work at Hitachi Vantara and I lead the marketing for EMEA, Northern EMEA, in the IoT analytics and big data solutions. So I'm very well aware of data and how we can basically enhance and bring like more possibilities for customers to utilize that data on a better way.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. So obviously being in such a large data conference, I believe there's something like 3,000 people attending.
I had 8,000.
8,000.
Yeah.
That's extreme.
Yeah.
To be honest, it is quite busy.
Yes.
So it's quite cool. But obviously, of those attending, a small percentage of them will be diverse. Mm-hmm. So diverse being both gender diverse, sexually diverse, race, ethnicity. And I guess my first question is, how do we feel about the diversity which is currently in the data industry? In the technology industry, for example, as a known fact, women make up 15% of the tech industry. So obviously the data industry is far smaller than the overall tech industry itself. Do you have any kind of overwhelming thoughts about diversity in the data industry?
I think it's improving. And I think as newer generations come into the workforce, you're going to see more diversity because I think people have greater access to job opportunities or roles that weren't necessarily there before with the advent of technology. There is, of course, still a massive amount of work to do, but I think it's very positive that people are aware of it across all the sort of different diversity areas that you mentioned, and it's getting better.
100%. Yeah, and I particularly think as the audiences and the customers are changing too, because a lot of new people are coming, like the millennials, and the customers are going to change. So therefore, your sales force needs to change too, and your message needs to change too. So I see some improvement. Still, we need to renew a lot of old school like messaging and people acting old school ways, which is not necessarily the best way. But I think it's going to improve in the next few years.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And so one of the talks I did yesterday, we spoke about the big data industry and how in the next 5 years, emotional intelligence and those more kind of, let's say, softer skills will be in demand 6 times more than they are today. Do you think that the change of skill set will bring kind of diversity into big data?
Yeah, absolutely, because as I said before, the way customers buy nowadays, it's completely different from what they did like 20 years ago. So, especially in the data industry and the technology industry, they want to buy from humans.
Yes,
and
exactly.
You need to have that human touch,
yeah.
like no doubt. So it's not the guy, like the sales guy, that call into someone like randomly and try to sell. You need to create content, you need to create a story around it. So therefore you need like soft skills to put yourself in the same like level as your customer and understand the needs and what they're looking for and their pain points. So I think yes, definitely soft
Very
skills.
Yeah. Natasha, do you have maybe one particular soft skill that you think is the most important?
That's a hard one.
It's a very difficult.
Yeah, because I think emotional intelligence is such a broad range, and I think you apply to what. But I guess empathy.
Empathy.
Is probably one that should really play forward all the time, because, like you said, from a sort of, in our job, trying to reach out to customers and prospects, you need to understand what their pain points are. But likewise, if you're managing a team or if you're working cross-functionally in your organization, understanding how that person operates, what they respond to. At Collibra, we recently did a team profiling exercise using some of the sort of Carl Jung methodology, by which colors you lead by.
Yes.
So I lead with red, which is fast, be gone, direct.
Yeah.
But when I speak to, Sam in my team, who leads with green, who's much more caring, I need to adjust some of my behavior in order to be empathetic to how she's going to receive that message. And so, for me, empathy, I think, is the...
Yeah, and I also think like the old school style, which is like, get the numbers, that is not going to take you like very far away, because, you need to take care of your first customers are your employees.
Yeah, 100%.
You need to take care of them, and if they're happy, they're going to be like, promoting that outside of the company, and customers will come to you.
Yeah.
If you just have people there for the numbers, they're going to go at some point.
They are going to go. So one of the workshops which I facilitate, which is very much in high demand through corporates right now, is what do millennials actually want? Because by 2020, 50% of our industry will be millennials. And when you look at what they want, again, everything you've already echoed, they want social impact, they want social good, they want a company that is driven by their values, and also trying to do better in the world, make better judgment calls, and therefore CSR and ethics will be very important.
Absolutely.
But what millennials really want, apart from, what the media says is flexibility, is connectivity, is they want to know that they are ultimately talking to another human on the other side.
Absolutely.
And really the data is telling us that's what they want. And, in an industry such as big data, in an industry such as tech, where everything is connected, do you think it's important to very much facilitate connectivity and community?
Yeah. I think what we're seeing is, across sort of the workforce, and also people bring much more of themselves to work these days, right? And I remember sort of 10 years ago you had sort of the consumerization of IT, and people were bringing, the devices that they use at home to work, so that was more sort of moving towards the mobile era.
Yes.
And I think you're seeing that now in terms of how people want to work, flexible workspaces, working from home, you don't always have to be present, and the emotional intelligence piece has also played a big shift and a change in that, because you need to respond to people in different ways. It's no longer that sort of typical suit, corporate, go to work, do your job. And so, I think connectivity is very important. I think connectivity will help us grow, and it will enhance and improve diversity.
Yeah.
Right? Because of the ability to connect to different people, irrespective, they don't have to be sat next to somebody in order to be able to meet them, connect with them, and work with them.
Yeah, and I think that applies to customers, but also to colleagues, like the possibility to maybe collaborate with someone who is in the other side of the world, but you can connect through the same ideas. And because you have a lot of channels to connect nowadays, you have social media, but you also have social media internally, and then you can have a podcast, a blog, a lot of things that can connect you to like-minded people. And again, that can be like connected to your own, colleagues internally, but also externally. And that is very important, like the ability we have nowadays to use those channels to, put our mindsets and put our thoughts outside. And, instantly someone maybe in, I don't know, in the US or in Australia can read that and say, well, actually, I'm liking what she's saying, and, let's connect.
Let's connect. But it's the same here. So Big Data London, like you've mentioned, it could be 8,000 people. And I saw the line this morning at 8 a.m. and it was massive. So I'm sure, sure it's hitting those numbers. But even here, it's all about connectivity. It's whenever we go to an exhibition booth, we're scanning or we're adding each other on LinkedIn to be like, okay, well, let's drop us an email afterwards. Let's connect afterwards. Let's go for a coffee.
I think one of the things, it's also building communities.
100%.
There's such a demand for that, right? We hosted a dinner yesterday evening, and when you bring people with one thing in common, and you give them the opportunity to engage with each other and build on those relationships, so there's strength in numbers.
100%.
Right? And I think you see lots more communities, not in sort of a tribal way, but people. There are no borders.
Exactly.
It's not that you have to be a community based on the people that live within 3 meters of you
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's such an exciting time. So through Like-Minded Females, we've only been around 18 months, and we have a social community of over 9,000 people.
That's immense.
Yeah, we have a mailing list of over 2,000, and they're global. And as of January, we're launching in Canada.
Wow.
Just because someone in Canada saw what we are
It
doing.
takes one person, doesn't
And
it?
they're like, we really like what you're doing, especially because you are trying to also acknowledge how we can create connectivity and create diversity and help diversify the tech and business space.
Yeah.
But the essence being is that I didn't even have to fly to Canada to meet this person. It was all done through Zoom.
Yeah, sure.
It's connected through Zoom. All the meetings are done through Zoom.
Yeah.
And then, like yourself, you live in Amsterdam,
Yeah.
and you're in London today,
Yes.
and yesterday, obviously.
Yes.
But do you sometimes find that the culture is different in how you communicate, or have you started communicating differently because of the difference of?
You have to be really aware of culture. So
Culture?
I have a sort of personal passion around understanding how culture impacts, what we do day
Okay.
to day, and how you should respond to people. Again, that sort of Culture methodology. It plays a really big part, and I think it's really important, especially as you go out to build communities, and that, sometimes there's great power in being able to connect with someone in Canada at the same time as you're speaking to someone in Australia, but
Yes.
you miss some of those sort of in-person behaviors that you can pick up on. So knowing some of that cultural background, some of that history in terms of how did someone get to where they are,
Yeah.
I think plays a part. And again, being empathetic and
Yeah.
reaching out to people.
And I think, eventually, what I would like to see through data is, yes, connect with people all over the world, but at some point, get back to that human face-to-face interaction too, because I think it's very important. I think a lot of millennials or post-millennials are missing that a little bit with all this, Instagram thinking and Snapchat. We need to go back a little bit to those
To the
values.
basics.
Yeah.
To the basic
Basically,
values.
let's have a conversation. Let's grab a
Completely.
coffee and let's talk about something that we both enjoy, right?
Yeah.
But the channel through that can be definitely is data.
Yeah. So data and technology should be used as a facilitator to
that's
create
my
connectivity, to create communities,
To start
but
the
also to
conversation.
start conversations.
Yeah.
But also, we're all leading businesses. Obviously, we here representing our own business or the business that we work for. So by having the connectivity and technology, we can understand what else is going on not only in the market, but what maybe someone is doing which could work in-house for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said before, what customers are looking for nowadays, which I think it's most important, is it's how socially you can impact.
Yes, exactly.
It's that kind of, okay, so you do this software, but what is it for? What benefit can it bring not only to my company, but also the community that I'm living
Data for good conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Data for good is a trending hashtag continuously now.
Yeah.
It's, I guess, the communities that we're from or the life that we now live, everyone is far more aware of what is going on around them. Obviously, information is accessible. It's accessible on your mobile phone. Equally, it's accessible when you go to work, and then obviously at home through both TV channels and your desktop. And so we're going back to that time where, like you've mentioned, empathy, human touch, basic needs, and a sense of belonging is quite important. Now, belonging doesn't necessarily mean you belong to a company, but it could be you belong to a value system, a community, a future social impact. The same way that actually Big Data London, you're a part of a community.
Yeah.
It's a massive community. So yesterday, once they'd finished the conference, they had a Big Data London meetup here. And they have meetups regularly. But the point being is that I think companies are now also getting into that momentum of we can't just be quite silo in our thinking. We have to do something to create connectivity.
Yeah. And collaboration between companies.
Yeah.
I think you guys are our partners.
Yes.
So Hitachi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Create communities where I know that we together we can do something great.
Yes, exactly.
For someone else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's my point here.
No, that's a great thing. That's awesome. So, in regards to the future of big data, do you guys have any predictions? Anything you think is going to change in the next 5 to 10 years, let's say? Because obviously you've already mentioned the change of customer experience, the change of customer preferences and needs is going towards a kind of humanistic touch and back to basics. Anything else you think might blow up?
I would say it's data in general.
Okay.
Big or small.
Yes.
Let's be diverse.
Yeah, completely.
Even with data.
Yeah.
One of the observations we made yesterday is how many new technology vendors are here.
Yes.
And I think that shows how much new technology we need to make that transformation with data that companies are realizing is possible.
Yeah.
So I think there's only going to be more. People are creating every day, people are innovating every day, and data's at the foundation of that.
Yes.
So the opportunities are immense. I think the only limitation would be our imagination.
But then just to jump in, what about data bias? Because obviously the more data we have, the data that's coming in, there's still biases around AI, around algorithms, around the data that we're using for business intelligence going forward. What should we start being conscious of, or what can we start doing in our own workplaces to make sure that we are disputing that bias, let's say?
But are we talking here about the diversity, or how can we use that to make like companies more diverse?
Most likely. So if we stick on the diversity theme, so obviously there's studies that show, and there's a really cool TED talk, I don't remember the name of the TED talk, about actually the bias that comes with data, and even within recruitment of diverse talent, because the data that we're putting in is already biased. Now, I don't know if that's...
I think nowadays, still like, my opinion, recruitment is ticking boxes. So we have someone here like, this is like, okay, we have this one, that one, and that one.
Yes.
And the rest of them, they're all the same.
Okay.
And in my opinion, that's going to disappear, hopefully, because as people are getting also like, they have access to education, they have access to training, not only like the back in the day they were like privileged people. Nowadays, fortunately, we have more resources to make some people from other backgrounds accessible to that. And, a lot of them are brilliant minds. So because you're born in that place, which is supposed to be like, very like dodgy, doesn't necessarily mean that you can have like a great job because your mind is brilliant. And I think as the HR part of the business changes, because new people are coming, they will start looking at people more at soft skills and what they can bring to the table, apart from having a techie guy like doing this, that, or a sales guy like being like very like in the 80s, right? Some shark that just do the numbers. No, you want to create relationships with your customer.
That's it. Well, that's what we're finding through the research what we're doing and the continuous meetings we have both with businesses and communities. We're finding that yes, there's acknowledgement that big data and data itself might have a bias, but ultimately it's about what are you doing to dispute that bias and to disrupt it and to make changes. And again, it's going forward.
I think what we need to do is it's about the data literacy.
Yes.
Right, and teaching people. So I think when people have looked at data up until now, they look at, when it's presented in the report, that's where the bias comes in, because it's like, okay, well, this is what the data is telling me. And what we need to show people, educate people on how they read data, which is very different to how they've used it up until now. So not only looking at what the data is telling you, but what it's not telling you, so that you really have that whole picture to understand that full data set, as it were, right? So, you're giving me the example of if you're a woman ticking the boxes, well, instead of looking at the boxes she ticked, let's look at the boxes she didn't tick.
Yes, exactly.
And what story does that tell us?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to do now, is showing people that data literacy, education about what data can do for them, how to read data, how to understand it.
And some companies...
And trust it as well.
Absolutely. And some companies, they just look at themselves and just think like, why are we not like improving? Why are we doing like having the same results? Well, because look around, because we have the same people.
Yeah. Exactly.
And doing all over again.
Just to sum up, kind of the key points we've made, diversity is very important.
Yes.
Communities and connectivity.
Collaboration.
Strength the buzzwords we're talking about, strength in numbers, soft skills, empathy,
emotional intelligence,
social skills,
emotional intelligence. These are the buzzwords, and most important, these are the topics of the future that we should be focusing on. So just to wrap up, obviously you both were here yesterday.
Uh-huh.
and you're here today. Can you just tell me, just to wrap up and tell everyone who's watching, what is the one thing that you've really enjoyed about this conference? Just one, if you could pick just one.
I think it's the buzz. I mean,
Okay.
if you just take a step back and you just look around at the conversations that we're having on the booth, the interactions, and realizing the opportunity that's there, and it's not going away. Like we're just getting through it,
Just
and there's
there.
more to come, and we're right here. We're part of one of the biggest things that's happening. You know, they're calling data the fourth industrial revolution. And
Yeah.
we're right at the front of it. So yay
An
us.
exhibition store here. We're a part of this movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very
Sara?
happy to see, companies like ours leading the data, revolution, as I said, but a lot of newcomers, a lot of people that
Yes.
are doing new things.
Yeah.
So this is not something that is said and done. Like, there's still a lot to
Journey
do.
just started.
Exactly, and it's good to see like young people like come in and say, hey, I have an idea, so let's make it happen.
Yeah.
So it's very refreshing.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I guess it's the community aspect and the collaborative aspect. So obviously, we met yesterday. We feel like we formed a sense of community, but also we're a part of something far bigger than you've already mentioned.
Yeah.
Not only a movement, but a movement which is talking about data in the right way, the ethical way, the social way, but focusing on, well, what is the future and how can we be a part of that?
I love the word movement.
Movement.
Just like,
I'm
let's
like, it's a
go.
revolution.
Hashtag data movement.
There you go. Jason
Well,
Wu.
thank you so much for your time.
Thank you too.
You're welcome.
I thank you so much for coming on board, answering the questions, bringing your full self. Hopefully we can keep in touch.
Sure.
And let's see where the movement leads us in the future.
Let's do it.
Thank you very much.